Welcome back to the Beyond Rockets podcast. This episode is a little different than normal. Today I'm sitting down with Carl of Zellus Marketing. We are working on this project together called Rocket City Cast. It's a way for us to, I guess you'll learn all about it as the episode goes on, but our goal in this episode is to talk a little bit about how we had this idea for Rocket City Cast, where we are with this website right now, and if you're listening to this, it is live, and where we hope this website is going to be for the Huntsville community moving forward. Thank you so much for being here. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So my name's Carl Holden. I am one of the owners of Zellus Marketing. Today, let's see. Yeah, it's been about 10 years. March 1st was 10 years for starting Zellus. And so we're full service marketing agency. Been in town here for that 10 years and just really have an allegiance to who we are as Huntsville, as North Alabama. And part of that DNA is what's developed into what we're going to talk about with Rocket City Cast. But our agency helps businesses get found online through Google, Facebook, social medias, search engines, everything. And while those are great systems and work fairly well, there's stuff about local that they don't cover very well. The algorithm doesn't understand local context.
No.
And like if you search stuff to do in Huntsville, it gives you random locations and some really old blog posts. And so that's part of what you and I discussed was how do we create things that help people, know about what's happening, especially our creators. Like, I just really learned about you in the last year. Why didn't I know there was this really interesting podcast about what's happening? And I think that's kind of where things stemmed from. But so I do online marketing. We have a small boutique team here in Huntsville and Athens, and we really enjoy our work, love serving our clients, and just figuring out new ways to help them get the word out.
Yeah. And so I I met Carl for the first time. I guess it was like October, November, maybe. It was something like that. It was kind of getting close to Christmas time in December-ish. He reached out to me on LinkedIn, just wanted to kind of grab lunch, kind of talk about an idea he had. And so we met at Stove House and we talked about this idea of Rocket City Cast. And so this is an idea that you've had for a little bit. I think when you were talking about it and you were kind of pitching me on this idea and seeing if I wanted to be a part of it, it was something that like I always kind of subconsciously wanted to do something like this, but not necessarily knowing how this happened. So how did you kind of have this idea for it, and where did this idea kind of stem from?
Well, I mean, so like with Facebook, which is a large way of how people consume their news, the algorithm decides who gets to be seen, and a lot of local stuff just isn't being seen. And I remember like there was this really cool like event at Mid-City that I thought, wow, I would have really liked to go to that. I follow them, but I didn't see it. And just wondering how much am I missing about where I live because I'm letting that just be dictated to me, and that there aren't very many local resources. We do have some great local websites that have had a long-term success, like Rocket City Mom, and news stations, of course, have websites with a lot of traffic, but if you're not in those networks, like where else can you go? It's back to, well, I guess I'll pitch more money to Facebook and
see if I can find these people that are local.
Yeah, and so I just that's bothered me for a while, and we make money at helping people get seen, but that's working through these already established networks. What are other tools that we can provide, especially ones that are free to low cost for local businesses and content creators? Because what I hate too is seeing podcasts and YouTube channels like start here and then die.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't any support. There wasn't a way for them to get like sponsors, and they just come in and then go out. Sometimes people just lose interest in doing it, but also it's just on the local level, it's a little harder to be financially viable because you'll see great videos made by local content creators that get like 100 views in YouTube because you're throwing it into YouTube, which has no local context in its search.
It's like you said, it's hard to find this local content. Like for podcasts too, you can't Google Huntsville podcast or podcast near me. It doesn't exist.
I've looked it up. People don't look it up because they know there isn't a thing.
Yeah.
So it's not even a search term.
And so you're, like you said, you're just using the Facebook, you're just using Instagram to kind of get your name known. And that's what I've had to do with the Beyond Rockets. When the podcast first started, I mean, it'd be 3 years in May. I mean, it was just, I had to continuously grow it with Huntsville businesses that are local, but there's still tons of people that have no idea it exists, as well as tons of people that visit these places I've had on the podcast that follow them and subscribe to their stuff, that they then also share the podcast, and they're still not seeing it.
Well, it's also the nature of the podcast players themselves. Yeah. If you search Huntsville, if you accidentally didn't put the word Huntsville in your title or description for Beyond Rockets, it wouldn't have shown up anyways.
Yeah. And it's like occasionally it goes in, but it doesn't always go in. And so it's just you're fighting with the audience that you already have and hoping that they then share it to more audiences. But there's a lot of ways that people would be looking for this content, either on YouTube or on podcast players, but they can't just find it. And so you pitched this idea to me in October, and it seemed just like, okay, this is a great place to be. How can I help? And so your initial kind of role, kind of push to me was, these content creators, that's kind of community that I'm in. Let's see if we can get these people on. And so in October to really January, we were just constantly trying to reach out to new creators. And we were doing that through people that I have met through social media. You were reaching out to people that you found on podcasts themselves, people you've met, people that have reached out to you. And I think we were even at your office one day and someone reached out asking the question on a phone call. And we're like, that's exactly why we're doing this. Because it's just like, there's so much need for it, but no one's been able to kind of accomplish it. And so you built the back end of this website through WordPress and kind of be able to create this. I mean, it's been, so like, if you look, like I said, if you listen to this live right now or listen to this as it's come out, this is live on Rocket City Cast. You can Google it. You'll be able to find us. And it's really just like you said, it's a place for people to find local content creators. And so kind of talk a little bit about how you set up the website and kind of making it, and what our goals are with it moving forward. Obviously, this is kind of the first iteration, and so we hope to kind of continue to add more features, but kind of where it is now and kind of what we hope it to be for the users.
Sure. Yeah, so we have to manually add the creators. So this isn't like looking out and finding who they are. That's exactly the problem. We are adding like your podcast in there. We grab its RSS feed and we grab other podcasts, and we're able to grab and put those all together and mix them up, and you're able to say which types and those kinds of things. So we're pulling them in, finding who's out there that's doing this, kind of doing some of the legwork. It's been kind of detective work on looking through Facebook and trying
like, is
to
this
find
podcast still around?
Yeah,
like, when's the last time they've uploaded?
Yeah,
where's the email for this person? And so, like you said, I mean, we want to make sure these people are able to be around for a long time, and we hate for them to leave. And so, continue with kind of how we're able to pull this together.
Sure. And so we pull those. We're also working on a mechanism through a YouTube playlist to be able to basically take any YouTube videos being created and put it in the Rocket City Cast playlist, and then we can get that pulled in again, because YouTube doesn't, its algorithm doesn't want you to leave YouTube, so some of that pulling stuff in isn't inherently the easiest, but we found a solution that's able to basically get all of those relatively low effort on our end as far as pulling the stuff in, because we want it to grow. We don't want human capital on our end to prevent content creators' stuff from being found. But I think we've got a pretty good system so far. We've got a dozen creators already, and looking at it, I mean, we could add more even without their permission to several dozen of all this stuff being made here. And basically now just getting the word out for people to look at it. And I think it's a great site that your boss wouldn't freak out if you had rocketcitycast.com open on you. It's locally relevant for the most part. The content's fairly safe for work. There are some shows that do have explicit language, but we're making sure that that's denoted as well. Yep. But I think the mission behind it is we tell people to shop local, but I think what we're realized with Rocket City Cast is that people should listen and watch local too. That what you're presenting in Beyond Rockets is highly relevant to their life, because you're talking to people who live near them. They run businesses like theirs. And that's, I find myself now, instead of listening to some podcast about somebody talking about economics, I go to Rocket City Cast and look at the different stuff happening there and think, I can listen to something that's relevant to my community and just go through the list of podcasts, choose one on the page that I find interesting at the time. And at the end, I'm like, man, I want to go to that place that I heard about or this thing. And because like I can reach them. Whereas if you watch a YouTube, you're never going to meet that YouTuber. You're never going to go to that podcast studio in California that you listen to meet those people. That the contextual relevance of it for local is far more exciting.
Yeah. I mean, like that's the thing is like the biggest thing that I've seen as I've been able to reach out to these podcasts, either through Instagram that I've known or people I know in person too, that I like have their number, reaching out to them and saying like, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's this idea that we have. There's a lot of, like you said, shop local, support local, but there's a lot of creators that are creating amazing content that's local that no one knows that they're here. Or that even these bigger YouTubers too, that are here in town, that are of huge followings, their audience in local is still very small.
People don't even know they're like famous in YouTube. Yeah. Like the Smarter Everyday YouTuber, I'm still blown away that people don't know that a lot of that content is being made here. Now he goes and guests to other places, but many of those videos were done in the foothills of Alabama.
I think one of his most popular episodes or most popular YouTube videos is about tattooing, and it was a tattoo artist that's here locally that owns a studio at Campus 805. That's like one of the most popular episodes that he has on there. And like at the time she didn't have her own studio, but now she does, and it's Arcadia at Campus 805, and it's just crazy to see just like there's amazing content. Like I had Ben Schmanke on the podcast who has 400,000+ subscribers. And he's creating content, getting to go to all these events, meeting all these other famous YouTubers, and he's creating content right here in Huntsville as well.
Well, and I think especially the initiative with like music and entertainment, like if we're not creating ecosystems to support those people, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you've got a board going on about it. If we're not creating ecosystems, technological ones, that support these people, they get eyeballs on their stuff, they get them to go to the events, they get them to support these people. There's no like music or entertainment culture that's going to get built. So at least in my opinion, what you and I are working on with Rocket City Cast is to create that support network for our local creators so that the people who aren't making content that would be awesome at it feel like it would be worth their time.
Yeah.
Right now, they're like, well, I'm going to put it up and who's going to see it? And that's the like 90% of the time I hear people say, I'd love to make a YouTube, but it's mostly about stuff around here. How the heck would I get anybody to listen to?
How would I grow? How would I be successful in it? Like if it's going to take me the time to do it, I want to make sure I'm able to be seen. And like you said, I talk to people too that I'm like, oh, this food blogger in town or this business owner that's like, I could do a podcast about the kind of the skill set that I have and the network of things that I know. But, why would I deviate and spend time doing this when I'm like, I need to spend my time doing this? Well, now we have this infrastructure of Rocket City Cast together that it allows you to be successful. I mean, I think the biggest thing with content creators and creators in general in Huntsville is knowing that other people in town have done it and have been successful or that are somewhat successful. Because like if you're able to see these creators that are, already had like, oh my gosh, like this podcast or this YouTube channel has been around for a long time and they have a good amount of subscribers and they're local, then I can do it too. And I think creating this network, I mean, we hope to one day be able to have events maybe and have even these gatherings of people that are on Rocket City Cast, because meeting these creators that are on YouTube or creators that are just on podcast and being able to pick their brain about stuff is a huge thing. I mean, when I talk with Ben Schmanke or talk with other people that have podcasts and like Blue Summit Supply, like all their stuff, it's like, oh my gosh, I never thought about looking at something like that or approaching the podcast like that or approaching video like that or never looking at the camera that way. But because I met this person, now they're a resource for me. And that's what we hope Rocket City Cast is, not only for the listeners that are listening and learning about these creators, but also the creators on them themselves, being able to network and being able to be a part of a community.
Well, and we can help these people succeed, because if you create content that is locally centered, that's, that may be as far as you grow, and which is totally fine for certain things. But also people like Ben Schmanke and stuff, and we discussed this, what if on a local basis he also knows he's going to get a couple thousand guaranteed, like hardcore hometown fans. We do it with sports. Why aren't we doing it with the media that we're creating here?
Yeah, and like him... Like I when I met him and being able to talk with him about his stuff, I'm like, do you just go out and people just know who you are all the time? Like, I just, like, his following is huge on YouTube. Like, it must be that way. He's like, no, I mean, occasionally it happens. I'm like, why is that? Like, I feel like the tech stuff that he talks about is so relevant for here too. It's not like it couldn't be successful here. And it's not like this other thing can't be successful here and be seen by more people. I mean, the amount of people that are coming to Huntsville that aren't from Huntsville as well will allow the podcast or the YouTube channel to continue to grow because it's being seen and being talked about by people that are not necessarily from Huntsville too. I mean, but they enjoy Huntsville and they want to be a part of Huntsville, but they might be from Colorado or it might be from Florida. They might be from Texas, but your content's being seen and being heard,
right?
Which is a huge thing for people, especially the small creators.
Definitely. And I get businesses on the other side of what are other ways I can let people know about us, and letting those businesses help support those content creators at a relatively affordable fee for everybody and supports them in the effort that they're making. That's another avenue for businesses also to get their word out by sponsoring these people. You have some sponsors yourself, and we're obviously going to work towards Rocket City Cast having some sponsorships, but also that these businesses can find these creators and network with those people. Because if you're a food podcast thing about Huntsville, a restaurant or a accountant or a law firm would be a great partner for you to be a sponsor of. So it kind of creates that local network and kind of puts us all together, because Huntsville's at this precipice of growth where there's enough going on that we're not hearing about everything. And do we either just give up and say, well, it's just gotten too big for me,
or I'll just go to my regular places and everything else is okay. I just can't know about everything. There's no way I can know about everything.
The other problem is TikTok, Facebook, Instagram are built to scale only nationally. You can't easily grow local audiences in those anymore, especially like even our clients who have tens of thousands of followers on Facebook. We're lucky if they get 1,000 impressions on a post without boosting it. And we spend all this time and money into these networks to get this local audience of whom we can't reach now unless we pay a fair amount of money. And that post isn't building rapport or trust or like with those businesses, whereas content like podcasts and YouTube, it's visual, it's audible, it's not just something you scroll through. You have to intentionally consume it, and I feel like it's far more powerful marketing medium for both the creators and those who could sponsor them.
Yeah, and like I said, if you're listening to this website's up, and so being able to, we love to have your input on what you think about this website. I mean,
or if you know somebody who needs to be on this.
Yeah, I mean, because like there's so much going on that even we don't know about, and I think that's the whole goal. We hope with being able to share this here, that Rocket City Cast continues to grow, and we continue to get more creators on there. And like you said, we're able to support these creators. We're able to support these local businesses because there's a lot of great things going on in Huntsville. We just have to be willing to talk about it and being able to find it. And that's what we want the community that's listening to this to do, is go to the website, reach out to us on the website, kind of let us know of like, hey, we would love to have this feature, see this thing, or I know this creator, or just send them our way. Because there's so much that this is the first phase of what this is. And we want to continue to grow this long-term and be a very viable thing in the Huntsville community for years to come. But we need the support of the local community to help us get there.
Definitely. And what's great about YouTube, or especially podcasts, is that it's sort of a passive consumption. I mean, I was just listening to one of yours driving home, and as traffic gets worse, podcast listening will increase here. Yep. So do we decide to have it be some thriller, murder, mystery thing that has nothing to do with our community? Or do we build a network where you can listen to things happening in your city, in your area, that's contextually important to you? And I'm talking to a few companies about how do we take maybe some of their written non-video, non-audio content and turn something into something passively consumable, where someone could listen to posts or news about what's happening for them in a way, because technology has advanced. You can take written content and get it into spoken and video form way easier than it used to be. And I'd love to hear the news driving home too, but where am I going to do that? Am I going to balance the phone on my lap and read WHNT
as I'm trying to drive down the road.
There's not those solutions for that passive consumption. And I'll admit too, I watch a lot of YouTube. Like I push play and stick it on the side of just listen to it, because 90% of everything said on YouTube doesn't even require you to look at it on the informational and
if something stuff that you want to look at, you can just pause it and then look at it. But like a lot of it, like you said, is just consuming it. A lot of podcasts are on YouTube now because there's just another way for people to enjoy the content.
Exactly.
And so, like I said, if you're listening to this, check out Rocket City Cast. I think it's we hope it is going to be a huge and useful tool and a great resource for the local community. Those that are listening to it right now, I mean, like you said, it's a way for you to listen to content that's been created for years or for months or just now started. And you can look through past podcasts and learn about something that's going on, or a business that's been in town, or an event that happened, or the story of something in your local community, no matter when and where you find it. And so being able to find it and being able to listen to something that's happened before or is happening now is a huge resource.
I agree. And everybody's behind the shop local movement of go and buy from people around you. Don't just rely on Jeff Bezos dropping something out of a spaceship onto your doorstep.
Yeah.
Rely on local businesses because that creates further wealth and investment in your local community. As we use these other systems, that's outflow. That's economic outflow out of our communities to other communities. So as we work with each other, it's not just a hope, Clark, it's also on the community listening to this, whether or not it's a choice. Am I gonna incorporate local into my media consumption? That's a choice people have to make. And what I'd say is I challenge everybody who thinks they want to see Huntsville grow and become a better place and be a place that new and cool things happen. That's not the mayor's problem. That's your choice in supporting local content, local creators. So it's really not up to us whether or not Rocket City Cast and efforts like that succeed. It's whether the people in Huntsville want to see locally created content succeed. And I think if you believe in shop local, then you believe in watch local. You believe in listen local, because that's the same kind of mechanisms that support local economy.
Yep. So like I said, the website's out now. You can go visit it at rocketcitycast.com. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being able to share a little bit about what we've been working on. And I'm looking forward to seeing how Rocket City Cast continues to be useful and how the community backs Rocket City Cast up.
Yeah, we're definitely not set in stone, so we're really open to people's suggestions. Email us about people you know that are making stuff. Let us know so that we can help this grow as a community and be a resource that we hope will really even outpace what we've done to something bigger.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for being here.
Thank you.